Hi folks. I've never really done any videos like these before, but I've have a growing interest in recording cassettes lately, and I figured it might be nice to document the opening of some of these cassettes as they're getting harder and harder to come by. And they're not really manufactured anymore, at least not in the quality that we see with this era. I think these were early 90s, maybe late 80s. Not really sure when they stopped manufacturing these types of tapes. This is a chrome. Well, it's a type 2, which is a high bias tape. There were normal bias tapes, which were type 1s. There were then these chrome tapes, type 2s, and then there were metal tapes, which are type 4s. There was a type 3, but that didn't really stay around too long. I think it was a ferric chrome formulation. Anyhow, the main categories are just the type 1, type 2s, and type 4s that we see mainly. So yeah, I just made a video. I figured because I'm gonna open this tape and I have this particular setup. This is a fully serviced Aiwa XK-009. It's a Japanese model, 3-head deck, and I enjoy recording on it. This is one of few decks I have. I have some others, and maybe I'll talk about them at some other point. But in this particular setup, I go from a WIM streamer, which is back there. It's the small. It's the WIM Pro, I think. I forget the model. Anyhow, it's a decent streamer. I go the optical out, digital out from there, and go into this iFi SPDIF purifier, which then feeds this DAC. This is an interesting DAC. It's a tube DAC made by a company called Sun Valley out of Japan. Um, they're not they're not really well known. Maybe even within circles that do know them, they're known for their tube amplifiers, but they also make some DACs, and this is a tube DAC. And this particular model is the SV192 Pro 2. And the really interesting thing about this one, it has a tube buffer, right, for its for its output stage, but you can dial in, like, I don't know, let me see if I can get some light on this. There's a knob here. You can either go fixed out, or you go variable out out of this DAC. And when you go variable out, you have this knob that lets you dial in more tube saturation. So if there's some masterings or certain digital files that are maybe too bright, or they're too thick, you can play with that knob and dial in the sound to your liking. And I record to tape to enjoy the sound, so I have started to do that, which I thought was very cool with this DAC. It's got a lot of other settings. You can pick it automatically picks what the input source file bitrate is, and its sampling rate, and then I can choose what bit rate or sampling rate I want to output. So if I'm getting a 16-bit 44.1 kilohertz file, I can see that here, and then I can say, okay, using multiples of that sampling rate, I do a 4x sampling rate, I could take it to 176. This is all selectable, but you want to stay within the correct multiples of your sampling rate that's coming in, so that the clocking and the digitization process inside is the math is correct, and so you can upsample using this functionality. Anyhow, this video is not really about the DAC, but I think it's a cool device I wanted to share. So it goes from the DAC, it feeds directly into my cassette deck. And so there, depending on the type of tape, I make my selections and I get to calibrate the tape. Now, this being this Maxell Type 2, which I'm gonna unwrap, I'm gonna calibrate it and let's go from there. Let's see. I don't know if I showed you this, but this is the rear of these tapes. They have what's the ideal conditions from CDs, how to record and where to play. And I don't know, we don't see stuff like this anymore. So, and we're probably not going to see stuff like this. So there's other tape formulations that are available, but they're just not as good as what was available back then. So anyhow, let's, I'll get this. Okay. Oh, okay. There's a little bit of crack in there. That's okay. It's on the shell. Okay. So this is a 90-minute XL2. It's a pretty good tape. Very good shell. Stable. It's a good shell. Good quality tape. And Maxell had a few different types of these shells that they used and different designs, but they try to make improvements till a certain point, and after that I think they started cheapening out on the newer shells. But it's nice to see the evolution of these, and I kind of like Maxell's, the logo, the shell design. I like the fact that it has screws. If anything, if I ever needed to open this shell up and maybe flip the slip sheet around if this tape is getting stuck, or do anything, or if the tape leader breaks off, I can reattach it. I have some a splicer and I can do those kind of things. It's nice to have the screws on the shell. Anyhow, so let's go and calibrate this tape. Now, I tend to typically forward it up a bit, only because there's the beginning of the tape, it could be messed up, or there could be certain quality issues, and then later on in the middle of the tape, or closer towards the middle, the quality of the tape is much higher. So I like to calibrate there, then go back, rewind to the beginning, maybe calibrate there if need be, and just get a good sense of how the tape's behaving in the deck. So that's good enough. You can see kind of it's towards the earlier part of the tape, but still a few, some at least some reels in. And yeah, I'll go ahead and start the calibration process. So over here you get the calibration process where you can set the bias and the record level. Anyhow, let me put the first tape into record mode, pause, record, and then go into the calibration, and then you see how the dials, the screen changes. I can, that's where you want to get your tape leveled at. I don't know if you can see that clearly. That's what they set up, because they recognize it as a chrome tape. So then let's get this thing started. I'll hit the play button. Now I have to switch it to tape because it was on source earlier. So now you see this is because I was recording some other tape before. So these are the settings that was at for that tape, which was a normal bias tape. Now this with the chrome, let me first dial the record level down, and then that I'm looking at the stability over there, and then I'll dial in the bias, which is the one on top. And for the bias, I like to have my tape over biased a little bit so I can get a little bit more top end. It really depends on the source material and how the tape behaves. But I've noticed with this particular deck, I tend to like a little bit of higher bias levels. So I'll do a flashing, you know, a little bit plus side of the bias and get the record level back straight. Yeah, that looks good. The tape is holding the bias pretty well. So I'm letting it run a little bit just to see how it does overall over time. And I think I got it where I wanted at. So this will open the top end up a little bit on this deck. So I think this, so there you go. It's simple. Tape's calibrated. Now, if the levels were off here and there, I have, you can play with the recording EQ, low, medium, normal, or high, and try. The main goal is to try to get it back into that vicinity, and then you can dial to your taste the bias. You know, normally you just want to get everything zeroed out, but oh, you see now the bias has increased a little too much, so I might decrease it a little bit. There you go. That's kind of where things settle for me. All right. So stop it there. Tape's calibrated, ready to go. Rewind it back. And now I'll record some material on it. The material I'm going to record is some Japanese Three Blind Mice label recordings. This one, I think I'm doing the Tsuyoshi Yamamoto Trio. And the album's called Blues for Tea. I'll do that on one side, and then they did another performance from the same session earlier in the day. That was called Live at the Misty, which was a club in Japan. So I'll do that on the other side. Actually, the Live at Misty I'll do on side one, and then Blues for Tea will go on side two. And yeah, I think the recording should come out well, and I'll listen to it later on tonight and see how it came out. All right, let's see how these videos do. I'll post it up, and if there's more interest in it, I will post other videos with other cassette decks I have. Some really nice Nakamichi decks, which I have serviced as well. I didn't service them, I had them serviced. And they're all performing quite well. So we'll do a series if there's interest. And oh, by the way, just for monitoring, I use this EAR headphone amplifier. That's what I listen to. And I use a pair of Sennheiser HD800s. I listen to this, and this is at my home work desk. So it's just nice and fun to be able to start some recordings every now and then. Yeah. All right. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. All right.